Well, a lot of new information has come out now that everyone is safely exiting their elected positions or have obtained some sort of immunity from a corrupt government. There was a 520-page COOF report allegedly showing that all of the various quote-unquote conspiracy theorists were 100% correct, or many of them were very correct. Joe Rogan went absolutely nuclear on the report, and people like Rachel Maddow, who defamed him and others for having their own opinions on things, as well as an interesting contract that Joe Rogan apparently makes his guests sign. What a wild day. Let's get into some of this topics. Huge shout out to Maddow PCs. You see them on my set. Promo code quartering at MaddowPCs.com. They're my computer sponsor. They're the computer I use, the only computer I trust to run my business, family, and friends. I use laptops, desktops, and more from them. So check them out. You save some money with promo code quartering. No apology from Rachel Maddow. Joe Rogan mouthed off with guns blazing as 520-page COOF report allegedly shows conspiracy theorists were correct. Joe Rogan recently reviewed the latest 520-page COOF report that was published after a 2-year investigation by the Select Subcommittee on the COOF lockdowns. Rogan lashed out at those that laughed off conspiracy theorists who questioned the narrative surrounding the lockdowns and the actions that were mandated thereafter. In the recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience with More Plates, More Dates host Derek, Joe Rogan sounded off on the faction that went along and supported the seemingly restrictive actions that were taken by authorities during the lockdowns, slamming Rachel Maddow and other mainstream media news anchors. The White House released 500-page COOF key findings. COOF likely originated from lab or incident in Wuhan, China. Crazy. Over $200 billion in relief funds lost to fraud. The Select Subcommittee on the lockdowns basically said all the conspiracy theorists were correct. Every single one of them. I mean, let's look at the clip.
The House released a 500-page report on COVID-19 pandemic. Key findings: COVID-19 likely originated from a lab-related incident.
Remember when you were banned from social media for even suggesting that? That's real. You were banned off social media for suggesting that. Just that, which basically everybody knew was very likely. You know, basically everybody knew that that was likely.
In Wuhan, China. Crazy. You get banned from YouTube.
Oh, so there you go.
For saying that. Banned. Okay, over $200 billion in relief funds lost to fraud, with criminals exploiting weak oversight. Prolonged
$200 billion. Do you know how much coffee brand coffee you could buy for that? $200 billion lost to fraud.
Lockdowns and arbitrary mandates cause severe harm, economic devastation, mental health crises, and historic learning loss, while lacking robust scientific support. Policies ignored natural...
Again, let me point out what he's saying there. The lockdowns stunted the education of an entire generation. It was not backed by science. The lockdowns, the shutting down schools, none of that was backed by science. They just did it.
Immunity pushing mandates that eroded trust and harmed public perception of science. Absolutely. WHO and CDC compromised by political interference, offering inconsistent, unscientific guidance that fueled public distrust.
Well, yeah, because one day it was wear the mask unless you want to, you want your grandma to get sick and die. Then it was wear 2 masks. Then it was wearing 2 masks are good, but maybe 3 masks are better. Then it was, there's no herd immunity. Then it was, if you get the jab, you will not get the COOF. Joe Biden himself said that. Hundreds of people said that. News anchors said that. If you get the jab, you won't get sick. Then they gaslit everyone and was like, well, actually we meant it will greatly reduce your symptoms. But that's not what you said when you told millions of Americans to inject that stuff into their veins.
And the key players included federal agencies, and Cuomo's administration actively obstructed oversight efforts and hid critical evidence.
Christ.
Select Subcommittee on...
Yeah, I mean, they literally, everything.
basically said all the conspiracy theorists were correct. Every single one of them. No repercussions, no retractions, no apology from Rachel Maddow. None of it.
Yeah. Joe Rogan blames it for Hollywood star Josh Brolin's Bell's palsy diagnosis. Rogan recently sat down with Hollywood superstar Josh Brolin on his podcast, and the two men discussed various topics, including the actor's Bell's palsy disease. Rogan linked it to taking the Koof jab and slammed Pfizer for demonizing those who questions its effectiveness. Speaking to Rogan on the episode 2232, Brolin outlined his medical troubles and said, I contracted a mild case of Bell's palsy. So literally, I'm washing my face, I'm doing this, and it just started sagging. After the legend confirmed that he noticed the symptoms 4 months ago, responded saying, that's a side effect of the jab too. That's one of the side effects of the jab. That is, in particular, that one, the mRNA one. Yeah, I know quite a few people that developed Bell's palsy from that. Well, the effed up thing is if you talk about it, you're an anti-jabber. They've done really good demonizing anyone who questions a medicine that might be correlated with a bunch of serious diseases. They've done a great job gaslighting people.
I contracted a mild case of Bell's palsy.
Really?
Yeah, like literally was stressing out. My wife was like, you got to, and I'm not a stress guy. And she was like, you got to mellow the fuck out. I'm like, yeah, but you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Let me move up here. It's like, it's going to be.
So your face started like sagging?
So literally, I'm washing my face. I'm doing this. And it just started going.
When was this?
4 months ago.
Okay. That's a
4.5
side
months
effect of the
ago.
vaccine,
Yeah.
too. That's one of the side effects of
I've heard
COVID-19
that.
vaccines.
And
Yeah.
I've also heard that speech impediments. I've heard a lot of things. Kids taking vaccines
Yeah.
and things happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That vaccine in particular.
that one.
The mRNA one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know quite a few people that develop Bell's palsy from that. Well, whatever you want to call it.
Are you serious?
Yeah, facial paralysis. Yeah. I know 2 people specifically
I
that
wonder if
developed facial, like droopy face.
Because when my older kids,
went away.
When my older kids were young, there were what, 17 vaccinations,
Uh-huh.
and now that my younger kids are young, there's 56.
72.
Yeah,
72.
Yeah, it's a series of them, but it's ultimately 72 shots.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's
And
a scary prospect.
72. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how parents decide and choose what's what and how to do what, where, when, why. I mean, 72. I had no idea it was that much. I thought it was like 6. That's crazy. 72. I mean, you see, correct. Joe Rogan, all the conspiracy theorists were correct. The House was a 500-page report on the lockdowns. None of it was true. You know, testimony given to Congress demonstrates that the event was orchestrated and pre-planned to smear campaigns were created to cover up for it. They lied. Many people died. I mean, here's a perfect Hunter's laptop conspiracy theorist. Any potential harm from the jab conspiracy theorist. Pandemic conspiracy theorist. Lockdowns conspiracy theorist. I mean, like everything. Steele dossier conspiracy theorist. Russia gets conspiracy theorist. I mean, like, they completely devalue that word. It's like calling somebody racist in 2024. What does it even mean? Or sexist? What does it even mean? Phobic? I don't even know what that means. Like, it used to mean something. It used to mean, oh, you have a problem with somebody, not because of their actions, but because of the color of their skin. But nowadays, who knows what it even means? And by the way, I thought this was interesting just to kind of bring the video home at the end. Apparently,
he goes from the Joe Rogan podcast to the Fitzy and Whipper with Kay Ritchie show. He only does the big interviews. Mr. Cry Russell, welcome, buddy.
Good morning.
Listen to this.
Actually, if you do want to light up, I mean, we can be here for 3 hours. That went for 3 hours. That chat with Joe. Do you?
Oh my
what's,
God!
What's
and the thing is,
environment like?
he says that, you know, in this text, he goes, we'll chat for about 3 hours. And I'm like, no, we won't.
3 hours?
That's kind of ridiculous.
No
right?
one
How could you
And
possibly
then you get in there, and that's what he fully intends. But they have this thing that, like, kind of once you're there, it's like you have to sort of sign a thing saying you're not going to leave till the chat's over.
Oh, wow.
And who decides when the chat is over?
Joe. It's basically the length of a cigar.
I mean,
When the cigar's getting down to the nub, he's like, well, I've finished this chat.
is that what it is? 'Cause that's
But I tell you what,
yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
I mean, so the media's, again, running with this. Oh, Joe Rogan has a crazy contract. Well, Joe Rogan's fans, viewers, listeners have an expectation, right? Their expectation is 2 to 3 hours. You get Russell Crowe and he does a 45-minute interview. He's not even releasing that, right? So it would make sense that Joe Rogan would kind of require that, in some way, shape, or form. So the media tried to spin it as this weird, bizarre contract, but Russell Crowe didn't seem to have any issues with it, at all. By the way, shout out to Russell Crowe for kind of staying. I really enjoyed the last movie I saw with him in it. What was it? I want to give it a shout out because I thought it was really good. He plays this like, well, I did like him in The Pope's Exorcist too. That I did like him in. Sleeping Dogs. That's what I liked him in. It's like a thriller mystery where he had like, I don't want to give it away because it is one of those like big kind of reveals. But shout out to Sleeping Dogs. Give that a try. I think it's basically everywhere. If you like Russell Crowe. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe or follow down below. And we'll talk to you again real soon.